and then we'll begin. Good. All right, good Shabbos, everyone. We are now broadcasting live, and we are on page 256 in the Chief Rabbi's Green Siddur, and we're going to begin with Yedid Nefesh. And then we'll begin. And I'm going to stop. So, Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Meshach Avdecha Eretz Einecha Eretz Avdecha Kemarayan Yesh Tachaveh El Muladarecha Yeravla Yedidai Secha Minoi Fesav Vechotam Page 258. Abayim Shana Kobado Amaram Toele Vachem Vehem Layadud Rachai Asher Nishpatim Yapi Vim Yavan Emanukasi Shiro Ladoinai Shir Chada Shiro Ladoinai Kol Naaretz Shiro Ladoinai Bachol Shemot Basro Miyam Layam Yeshua Asoi Sapro Vagoyim Karavaroi V'chol Amim Nefloi Sabanan Laiki Gadol Adonai Olam Olam Vayod No'ira Al Kol Elohim Malai Kikol Elohim Amim Elilim V'Adonai Shamayim Asa Haim V'Hadal Epanav Seperes V'Mikdash Avol Ladonai Mishbachos Hamim Avol Ladonai Kavod V'Azan Alai Havol Ladonai K'V'Avat Shemot Tzavav Mincha V'Yolech Atreisav Alai Ishtachavo Ladonai V'Hadras Kodesh Delo Mipanav Kol Ha'avles Imro V'Goyim Adonai Malach Hafti K'Tei V'Avatimot Yadinamim B'Mei Shamim Yismacho Hashamayim Esagel Ha'aretz Alalayim Ram Hayom V'Avam Layad Yalai Sadai V'Chol Asher Bo Yalai Hazir Amena Kol Atzeo Arifnei Yadoinai Ki Viva Kiva Lishpoit Oretz Yishpoit Tevel V'Tzedek Amin B'Emunah Yamba La 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 yam la 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 ha ya ya na 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 ya la 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 I la 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 na 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 I la 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 ya na na ya na na I la 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 ya la 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 ya na la 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 ya na ba na 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 la 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 ya na na ya na na ya ba la 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 ya na 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 la 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 ya 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 la 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 ya la 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 Adonai Malach Tagel Amet Yismachu Iyim Rabim Hoy Ave Adonai, Tzedora, Shomer Noshois Chasidam Miad Rishayim Yatzilem. O Zaro LaTzadik Kol Yisraelei Simcha, Simchot Tzadikim B'Adonai V'Oidu Lezecher Kodshoy Mizmor Shir L'Adonai Shir Chador. Yiram Yamam Loyo Tevel V'Yoy Shemego Naroi Simcha Uqaf Yachad Harim Yiraneinu Lifnei Adonai Kivo Nishboi Tores Yishboi Tevel B'Tzedek V'Amim V'Meisharim Adonai Malach Yirgaz V'Amim Yoshev Keruvim Tanot Aret. Moshe v'Aaron v'Choyana v'Shmuel v'Kolei Shemoy Koyrem el Adonai Yanen V'modanan v'yidaber aleim Shomolu hedai sam v'chot nasan alamoy Adonai Eloheinu atanitam El Nosei Yisrael V'Elokei Molalinu Esav Roi Mamo Adonai Eloheinu V'Yishtachavu LaKodshoy Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Mezamor LaDavid Hamul Adonai Bnei Elim Hamul Adonai Kavavavavavos Ailai Avol Adonai Kevat Shamayim Shtachavol Adonai V'Azaz Kodesh Kol Adonai Al Hamayim El HaKavoyim L'Manalai Adonai Al Mayim Rabim Kol Adonai B'Kol Chaylai Kol Adonai Adon Kol Adonai Shomer Adonai Shomer Adonai Ezazel Amanon Mayal Giden Kamo Yalalalala Avanon B'Siryon Kemoy V'Reibim Ailai Kol Adonai Chotel Avosech Kol Adonai Yachel Midbar Shem Adonai, Melech Le'olam Adonai. Azayama Yitain Adonai, Yevorech Zamo Vashalom Alalai. Ainai, Anai, Anai, Yanai, Anai, Anai, Anai. Yanai, Anai, 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 Anai. Ainai, ya, 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 ya. Do you want to choose the tune for the Chazaydi? Yeah, what tune do you want to do? L'chadoidi lekras kana p'nei Shabbos nekabala. L'chadoidi lekras kana p'nei Shabbos nekabala. Shamar zachor v'divor echad hishmiyana. Elama yochad Adonai yechad Oshma yechad Shemo seferes v'lesena lechadoidi lekras kana p'nei Shabbos nekabela lekras Shabbos v'kovanecha ki v'kora b'rava me'ashmi kena Nesufachai Maser V'Shabbat Echila Lechadoidi Lekras Kala P'nei Shabbos Nekabela Mikdash Melech Malocha Kol Nitzai Mitoicha V'Kol Avloch Shevesh V'Yemek Abocha V'Yachanot Alayichem La'al Lechadoidi Lekras Kala P'nei Shabbos Nekabela Hiznari me'afato mi'lev shebigdei Sifatecha mi'ad yamin yishai ve'zalavni Korbai al nafshi Agaya ala lechadoidi lekras kala p'nei Shabbos nekabela Hevesayleli kipa oida kami ayvi ori shedaber gvoid Adonai alayich bigla lechadoidi lekras kala p'nei Shabbos nekabela. Shoshana Malka. Loi, loi, say, bashi, loi, loi, say, kalami, matish, tai, chafi, umatemi, bach, yachasu, ani, ami, benim, nasa, tela, Kim sos vasana kala lechadoidi lekras kala p'nei Shabbos nekabela yomin asmotem raitzi es Adonai taritzi al yad yesh V'nes machava nagila lechadoidi lekras kala p'nei Shabbos nekabela bo'im b'shalom ateres v'ado gam lesimcha Boy
Good Shabbos to our wonderful community. So lovely to see you here. A big mazel tov to Sam Rose and to Noah Mitchell, who both within the past week or so had their Hebrew birthdays for their 13th birthday. And we had some amazing sessions on Zoom where they put on tefillin on the day of their Hebrew birthday for the first time as a Jewish man. So there was some real nachas that we were shepherding this week in the community in Shabbat. A picture of Sam putting on his tefillin on his Hebrew birthday, on his bar mitzvah day. We haven't spoken yet sufficiently about the Omer. And we're in the Omer period. We just marked Lag BaOmer this week. We had a small bonfire out in the back garden, right? Do you remember that? Yeah, you remember. We had a small bonfire in the back garden. Ezra and Yiska sat there looking at the fire. I'm not sure what the fire marshal will be saying about two children quite close to a pot full of burning wood. But in any case, Andrew is there and he's reporting these United Synagogue as we speak. So it's the Omer, and we haven't yet spoken so much about it. And in last week's parsha, we actually introduced the Omer in the Torah. We introduced the Omer, and it's a very strange place that we introduce it. So I'd like to investigate with you why we bring the Omer in last week's parsha, and what it teaches us about the Omer. It teaches us about what it means to be a Jew. So, by the way, I know he's stealing the show. I know his waves are more cute and more interesting than anything I could possibly say. I know, Kaz, I can see. Okay. You're pretty cute, aren't you? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to give everybody a wave? Do you want to wave? Wave to everybody. Wave. Okay. Oh, Wojciech. Okay. Last week's Torah portion, and it leads into this week's Torah portion, but last week's Torah portion has within it the section dealing with the festivals. We spoke about it in Chasing Lullabies. We spoke about that section, which is known as Parshas HaMoyadim, the section of the festivals. And bang slap in the middle of the section dealing with festivals, we seem to have a couple of pieces that don't quite fit. It's almost like, what's the odd one out? In Israel, used to come home with an exercise called Ma Yotze Dofen. What's the odd one out, right? We all know that there's the two pictures and you have to select out which is the one that doesn't quite fit. Well, in a discussion of festivals, in a discussion of Sukkot, of Pesach, of Rosh Hashanah, all of a sudden we have a reference to the Omer offering, which seemingly has nothing to do with any of the festivals. It happens to come in between Pesach and Shavuot. We do bring it, but it's not a festival in and of itself. So what is the Omer offering doing there? And yes, this is the time of the year that has its name from that offering, but it's not a festival last time I checked. So why is the Omer offering in the section of the festivals? That's question one. Question two is, there's something else that doesn't seem to quite fit in that passage. There's something else which really doesn't mesh with the offerings, and that is the passage that deals with leaving behind the gleanings and the corners of the field, shikha and pale, right? Leket, shikha and pale, leaving behind. If a person is plowing their field, is harvesting their field. Okay, is harvesting their field. Sorry, the little man wants to get closer to the computer. If a person's harvesting their field and they drop some of their harvestings, they're not allowed to collect them to pick them up again. Instead, they have to leave them for poor people to take with them. Similarly, that is the case when it comes to the corners of one's fields. One has to leave that. Now, it's a beautiful law. It's a beautiful thing to have to require wealthy landowners to give a portion of their crop to poor people within the community. But what does that have to do with the festivals? So it's with answer to these two questions that I think we can gain a real insight into what Judaism has to say about power, about rest, and what it really means to be a Jew. And I think some amazing insights into this time as well. If There's a little boy right over here sitting next to the computer. If he's going to let me do it. Are you going to let us do it? Yeah? Is it going to be okay? Okay, fine. Good. Next time, maybe we'll go to the shul. Okay. So let's begin like this. We spoke last in Chasing Lullabies about what it means to make bread. We spoke about the idea that all the festivals seem to have within them a certain sensitivity to Shabbat. So Shabbat is almost like this global idea that has expression in different ways. And just in a nutshell, what we spoke about then, and to just review it because it's going to be really helpful to understand the answers here, is that it's almost like there's a concept called Shabbat. There's a concept called resting from my creative activity. Why? Because if I constantly create, if I'm constantly building, nurturing, growing, and never pulling my hands back from that which I'm creating, so then I never get to have a relationship with that which I create. If I'm constantly putting my fingers into the pie, trying to change it, improve it, and never pull back, so then actually everything is simply an extension of me. Everything is simply an extension of me, and it's not something which I have space to enjoy. Excuse me 1 second, I'm going to have to give in to his mummy. Say goodbye, say Laila Tov, everybody. Laila Tov. Okay, he's going to go to bed. We'll be back in 1 minute. Okay. Mummy, little boy wants to go Laila Tov. Give it. He wanted to go Laila Tov. He started crawling up the stairs. He's very tired. Okay, so Shabbat is the ability to say, I'm no longer involved in this. I'm able to pull back and say, it's done. It's done enough. I can now appreciate it and relate to it. Now we have that once a week with the Shabbat, but we also have annual celebrations, annual Shabbat-like celebrations, which sensitize us to different aspects, different things that we need to also stop creating, stop being so much in power, and nevertheless realize that we can leave it behind. We can have a relationship with this thing. So we spoke in Chasing Lullabies about how that might express itself in Pesach, how that might express itself in the festival of Passover. Why? We have to have a little lesson about bread making. And I don't know about you, but one of the favorite lockdown pastimes, I think, for many people is baking. So many of us have been going, and actually yesterday we had 2 different sets of bakers coming out the Landau kitchen. Yiska and her mother were really busy. We had banana muffins in the morning, we had shaped biscuits in the afternoon, and we cycled it off in the evening. So that's perfect. So bread making, what do? You go into the field that you've worked, that you've taken control of, that you've grown a crop of wheat, and you cut the wheat down, you harvest the wheat, which is really a euphemism for killing the wheat. You kill the wheat. And not only do you kill the wheat, but you leave it to dry in the sun, such that the seeds, the kernels, become very, very dry. So it dies even more, becomes dehydrated. And then you take those dead seeds, which could have been life, but now you've pulled all the moisture out of them, and then you pulverize them in a mill into a flour, into a powder that seems to have no life left within it. And you are the master of this creative activity. You are the one that has taken this possible life force, this seed, this living plant, and pulverized it into flour, into powder. But then you do something really interesting. You mix water, which gives life. You mix water with the flour and the naturally occurring yeasts in the wheat. Those naturally occurring yeasts make use of the sugar inside the flour and produce an enzymic reaction that has a byproduct of carbon dioxide, which causes this mixture, this dough, to rise. It's almost like it's breathing into the dough. Where else do we see in the Torah that something breathes into something and gives it life? We see it right at the beginning, when God breathed life into the first human being, into the first man, into Adam, and breathed that life, and he comes alive, and the dough is coming alive, and then you shape the dough and you put it into the oven, and it grows even more with the heat of the oven until there's nothing left. The heat kills the yeast, it kills the enzymes, everything's denatured, and it's back to death again. And so this perception of control, of creativity, of power over the agricultural world is challenged once a year, when we are not allowed to allow that yeast reaction to occur. You're not allowed to be the person breathing life into the dough, the agent that brings about this enzymic change. No, stand back. Only 18 minutes. Matzahs, flatbreads, no leaven. Because you have to realize that you're not always in control. This is not simply an extension of you, always you, but rather there's a world out there that you have to respect, an agricultural world, a plant world that needs our care and needs our respect. But in the shir that we gave in Chasing Lullabies, I think it was Harvey asked a question. That's very nice that we rest from the second part of the process. We rest from the yeast. We don't allow that to occur. But what happened to the harvesting itself? When do we get to rest from that? The first part of the process, cutting down the wheat, letting it dry. What's causing us to rest and pull back from that? And here's where Omer comes in. Because even when we harvest that wheat, we're not allowed to use it. We have to recognize that something else needs to occur. What needs to occur? The Omer offering needs to allow the new wheat, the Chadash, to become permitted. I don't know if you ever look at certain brands of flour or baked goods, but they'll say without any concern of Chadash on the packaging, if they're going through all the different kashrus stringencies that might need to be observed when it comes to a baked good. Why? Because if between the time of the new harvest and the Omer offering, or the time of the Omer offering, we're not allowed to use that wheat. Yes, you've cut it down. Yes, you've exerted your control, but you can't use it until you offer a sacrifice to God. You know, as a farmer, it's very easy to think how powerful you are. I work the ground. I sow the seeds. I cause it to grow. I'm really a creative force within the plant world. I'm almost godlike. What's that mean? I've created life. I sowed the seeds plant, the seeds grew. I am God. No, you're not. No, you can't eat what you planted. Don't think that it's all you. Don't think that you have power and you have control. Wait, the ultimate being that imbued every moment of that with life, the ultimate being is waiting for you to recognize his role in this with a sacrifice, with the Omer sacrifice. Have a Shabbat-like experience. Have a rest from the cutting, have a rest from the yeast, have a rest from the entire agricultural process, and recognize that you can relate to this, but don't think it's an extension of you. And with that idea in mind, I think we can understand also why so that's why we have the Omer when it comes to the section of the festivals. The festivals are teaching about Shabbat-like experiences. Omer also teaches us about a Shabbat-like experience. A Shabbat-like experience to pull back and recognize that this was not created by me, but this was created by the Creator. And with this in mind, we can also understand what Shabbat-like experience there is in leaving the gleanings for the poor, in leaving those corners of the field, those leftover sheaves of corn or wheat or whatever the crop is for the poor. Because when we are sowing those fields, when we are making our money, reaping our crops, engaging in the capitalist endeavor that is society, we can often think again, this is my project. This is my money. I worked hard for it. This is my crop. And we can forget that this is all a gift from God. A person can have a thriving business one day, and then a pandemic all of a sudden can mean they're effectively unemployed. It's scary what's happening at the moment. Until this time, it was going great. I was working hard, I was earning my money. And then something wakes me up, has to wake me up to realize that's not the case. It was a gift. It was a gift. It was a gift in the form of your hard work, but it was a gift. Now, we don't always need a pandemic to wake us up to that fact. We can just simply leave behind the corners of your field. Don't take everything. Don't take all that money that you earned, because it's not really yours. Leave behind a corner and recognize that this is a gift, and so that gift should be shared. Have a Shabbat-like experience with our livelihood. And that's why leaving behind those gleanings, leaving behind those corners is also in the section of the festivals. All those Shabbat-like experiences. Pull back and appreciate and relate to that which you've created, but don't think it's simply an extension of you. We're in the Omer period, and we're in lockdown, and we're having a Shabbat-like experience. Because throughout the year, throughout time, we can get so caught up in that livelihood making, in all those efforts that we're putting out there, that we can almost cease to think about the effects or the impact that is being had on other people. So just like that farmer needs to pull back and realize there are other people that might need the gifts that I've been given, so too we in this time need to think about, I need help and I need support at this time, because this is very, very stressful being in lockdown. It's very difficult, but maybe there are other people here also suffering, also needing our support. And that's what the Omer really is all about. We saw that the reason the Omer became a period of sadness in the Jewish calendar is because the students of Rabbi Akiva, lo nagu kavod ze b'zeh, they didn't give each other kavod, they didn't give each other respect. How can you not give another human being respect? How can it be? They're a human being. They're created in the image of God. They're a brother. They're a sister. They're all students of this great rabbi. They're learning together. How can you not give someone respect? Shouldn't everyone have respect given to them? I mean, there's an adage nowadays: respect has to be earned. Why does it have to be earned? You give people respect because they're a person. Why are they not giving each other respect? It's because they're so caught up in their world, in their learning, in their approach. They're so caught up in the project. They're not pulling back and recognizing other people have projects too. Other people have needs. Other people have wants. I'm so struck, so impressed, so just taken aback by the beautiful response our community has had to caring for each other in this time. We have done the greatest kindness we can do to others, which is keeping someone else in mind. I think the greatest thing that you can give to someone else is let them know that you remembered them. Anyone who's been through something difficult will know the most powerful thing is when someone gives you a call and says, I was thinking of you. I'm thinking of you. How are you doing? It must be tough. And we're all here and we're all suffering. Some finding it more difficult, some finding it less difficult, but this is a difficult time. And this chapter of the festivals, this passage about the Omer, the passage about the gleanings, what we're living through right now tells us one thing. It says, don't always think it's about your creative process. Pull back, have a relationship, and recognize there are other things, there are other people, there are other beings that need to be recognized. And so my challenge and my invitation to us this week is whether you've been making calls for the shul to those who are part of the vulnerable group, the older group, or whether you've simply been making calls to your friends and family, keep one more person in mind this week. Make one special call to a friend, a relative, a member of the community, just one special call that you wouldn't have otherwise made, saying, I'm thinking of you. I'm stepping back, I'm thinking about you and someone else. I want to make space in my life for your needs. I want to hear what's going on. How are you managing? And with that, let us bring about the end of the suffering of the Omer. Let's transform the students of Rabbi Akiva who died into the new students that lived, that shone the light of what it means to be a Jew, what it means to be a community into this world. that light that we lit on Lag BaOmer, that light of the bonfire, the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the light of goodness, the light of Hashem, the light of this Torah. We are such an amazing people. We shine his light. Let's keep each other in mind. Let's make space for each other. I'm thinking of you. Good Shabbos. Thank you for logging in.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.